Welcome back inside the Nebraska's Soybean Works studio for another episode of Monday Morning Markets. As always, we're joined by Jeff Peterson. He is the president of Heartland Farm Partners. Now, Jeff, we've got quite a few things to talk about this morning, but I've got to ask about what's happening in the overnight trade. Now, for those watching at a later date, we do record Monday Morning Markets at 7:30 on Mondays. As we sit here, soybean futures continue to climb, just 5 cents away from hitting that $12 mark for January of 2021. Corn also up around that $4.28 mark for December. What's driving the corn and soybean markets right now? Certainly some strong demand overnight.
Yeah, there really has been. It seems like the overnight trade, what's been interesting is we do bounce up to some areas where we find some resistance up there, but it's just a continual story of just good demand out there in many different sectors and a little bit of unknown on the weather. You mix that all together, Bryce, and actually what it gives you is it gives you a very strong market.
Well, let's talk about it as we look at the week ahead. What's the best way to compare soybean supply and demand as compared to past years?
Yeah, and I think that's really good to do. And the easiest way to do it is actually take a look at the USDA report and then dig in and get that ending stock number. And now once you get that ending stock number, divide it by your total demand and get that stocks to use. And that becomes a way to be able to compare apples to all other years. And what we found coming out of this last USDA report, Bryce, is that actually the stocks to use ratio is 4.2%. That is the tightest stocks to use ratio that we've had for November report, going all the way back in our data set, which would go back, past the early 90s.
So what's that mean for the markets? Where do you see things going right now? Overnight, we did hit 12 for that month we were talking about, but do you see demand continue to be strong there and drive the markets higher?
Yeah, I really do. I think we do. We have enough demand out there. We've got uncertainty with weather coming out of South America, and as a result of that, we're just going to keep working our way higher in here. And what's interesting about this type of market, there has been supply issues that have caused us to get to this tightness, but really demand has been very, very strong, not only on the export side, but also on the crush side, on the soybean side, and it's been good enough on the ethanol side and export side on the corn side. So I do think we continue to just grind this market higher, and that's kind of the action. Take a couple steps forward, take one step back, and just keep us working higher until more is known about that South American crop.
What's it been on the soybeans? $3 increase from just a few months ago. Crazy ride we're on here.
That's a very crazy ride.
Well, let's talk about the reports coming up that you're going to be keeping a close eye on.
Yeah, and I think the biggest way, since exports are such an important part, we just want to remind ourselves, on Monday mornings, the export inspections report come out, and that report, how we use that, is that we use that to be able to see what's actually getting shipped, because we know just because of sales on the books doesn't mean it's final. So we physically need to watch those export inspections and make sure they're getting shipped. And then on Thursdays at 7:30 in the morning, then we get the export sales. Now that export sales report is a recap of what's happened for the past week. So that's a good way for us to see what's actually got sold. And then that next week and beyond, we can watch those export inspection reports to see what's actually getting moved.
Any other factors as we're in this holiday week, Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday of the year, watching closely?
Yeah, we're just continuing to keep an eye on South America. One thing that's kind of surprising, we knew that South America weather was going to be dictated and driven by the La Nina pattern, but we're really surprised by the dryness that's coming out of Mato Grosso. Mato Grosso, if we look at that September through November time frame, it's actually the driest they've been in over 40 years. Wasn't expecting that. That's been an additional item that came in here and gave this market some direction. Put in perspective, Mato Grosso would produce over 25% of the soybeans in South America, so it's a very important producer. We do think also longer term down the road, they'll watch those extended forecasts, because we're more concerned actually about southern Brazil and into Argentina as we go later in the season.
I asked you about that dry area. If we were to put that in U.S. State, that'd be all of Iowa and at least part of Illinois as well, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, it really would be.
So crazy things to watch there, Jeff. If people want to follow along, something like the weekly reports that you talked about, what's the best way to get some of that content from Heartland Farm Partners and yourself?
Yeah, I think the easiest way, if you're on Twitter, go ahead and go to Jeff Peterson01 on Twitter, or go to our website, heartlandfarmpartners.com, and you can sign up. There's a sign up button there for some of our free daily commentary, and you can follow along with us. We report all that information as it comes out.
Lots of things to watch this week, Jeff. Always appreciate the information. As a reminder, markets are closed again on Thursday this week for Thanksgiving. You can catch all the market updates and conversations by tuning in to your local rural radio network station.